Yes, ladies and gentlemen, thank you once again for joining us at INC Live. My name is Karl, and you might recognize the lady on the right side of my screen. She is the first ever guest for this new segment of the channel where we will be hoping to try and interview potential fighters, potential champions, anyone associated with the world of mixed martial arts. And the first person to do so is the Cage Fury and Invicta alumni, Jillian DeCoursey. Jillian, thank you very much for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Very well, very much so. I have to say, I am so nervous about doing this being the first ever interview. You're sort of the guinea pig for this segment of the show. You're the first person to be interviewed, and I hope I can do my part to be a good host. And I'm sure you're going to be a fantastic guest.
I think we'll make it work together.
Let's certainly hope so, because I am so petrified right now. So I'm just going to be sticking to the script. Maybe as things go on, I'll start to loosen up a little bit. But the first place we need to start is for anybody who might be new to your work. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I am actually have like a dual career. I'm a mixed martial arts fighter. I fight for Invicta and Cage Fury. I'm generally in Atomweight. My last fight was at strawweight, but 99% of the time I stick to Atomweight. And then on the other flip side, I'm also a mental health counselor.
And of course, mental health has been a big subject, of course, over the past 12 months, bearing in mind what's been happening with the world.
Yes, absolutely. It's been very busy on that side of the world for me.
I think the first place we need to start is what was it that first got you attracted to mixed martial arts?
I was always an athlete growing up. I played basketball in college. I was always playing competitive sports, and I just it just kind of happened. I needed something else to kind of do. I just started as just training, just something to do, something to stay in shape. And I started competing in jujitsu tournaments, and then it just kind of took off from there. It was never, my initial intention to be at the level I'm at now.
And of course, when you first started taking up the sport, women's mixed martial arts was going through a real sort of change of perception. You had like Gina Carano and all the stuff with
Yep.
Strikeforce. Ronda Rousey, of course, came along after that. And by the time you made your debut, women were in the UFC. When you started training around that
Yep.
time, did you feel that change in how you were perceived as a female MMA fighter?
I mean, even when I first started like my amateur career, it was still like the females were just starting to get a little bit of momentum. It was nowhere where it's at now. So it's been definitely nice to be able to kind of be part of it from where before like the females were mainstream to now where, they're main events. So it's definitely a very noticeable change in that momentum in a very short period of time.
And did you feel that when you were actually training and competing in your first events?
I did, because it was harder to get fights. I did pretty much all of my amateur fights were at strawweight, simply because atom weight at that point really wasn't an option. Like 115 was the lowest I could get fights at. Then towards the end of my amateur career, I was able to start getting fights actually at my weight class, and then that momentum just kept pushing forward through pro.
It's a good thing that you mentioned your amateur career there, because one of the most interesting things I've been looking at your sort of career portfolio is the length of your amateur
Hmm.
career. Most fighters I know have like one or two amateur fights before going pro. In your case, it was nine
Right.
fights, 8 wins. Your only loss was one you
Yep.
took on short notice. Was that a subconscious decision you made to stay amateur for so long?
It was kind of like between myself and my coaches. Like we wanted to like fine tune things, get things in place, so then when I did make that jump to being a professional, it was I was ready to go, and there were tuning that needed to be done. And also kind of once I started working with my manager, we had started talking about Invicta, and that was starting to become like a little bit of a carrot that was being let out there. And we knew that at some point they were going to be making an offer if I just kept winning. So it got to a point where it was, hey, you know what? It's right there. I want to try and make my professional debut with Invicta. So all right, I'll just keep taking amateur fights and winning until that offer just kind of comes through.
And what would you say are the biggest differences between the pro and amateur ranks?
A level of competition. You like as you get on in your amateur career, okay, you start to get people that are a little bit maybe more serious. But then it kind of resets right when you become pro, where at the beginning you'll have people that are, you would think like, hey, you're a professional, it should be more serious. At the beginning, I think it's 50-50, especially with the females, because there's a lot of females that I think go pro way too soon, and they have upside down records and things like that. And it's like, well, if you weren't succeeding at an amateur, what you don't really have business going, pro yet. You need to refine those skills. But I think it's just mainly level of competition, because once you get to those professional ranks, it's a higher level of competition. Girls are training more seriously. It's this is what their livelihood can be sometimes.
I'm sure there'll be a lot of quirky stories from competing in some of those amateur shows.
Yeah, I mean, I got pretty lucky. I fought for really good promotions as an amateur that ran the events like, as professionally as they could. So, I definitely got lucky, and I didn't really have girls pulling out of fights and things like that, like some of the horror stories that you hear happening. So that made it easier for me to stick around longer as an amateur too, because I was getting what I needed.
So you build this 8-1 record, it's around 2017, and you get that call from Shannon Knapp to say, I want you to compete for Invicta. Tell us how that
Yep.
came about.
I mean, it was literally, like we knew it was there, and it was after my last title fight at 105. Pretty much like I was actually on vacation. I was on a cruise, so I didn't really have much reception, and my manager called me and he was like, "Hey, so we got the contract." And I mean, that was a great vacation after that.
And I bet it got even better when you got that win over Ashley Medina.
Oh, yep, yep. That was definitely that. I mean, I couldn't ask for anything, better. Like, making your pro debut at Invicta and then getting that W.
You've mentioned a couple of times that you currently fight in the Atomweight division, which is 105 pounds
Yep.
for anybody who's new to the sport. I find the Atomweight division fascinating right now because it's arguably the highest profile weight class which isn't currently in the UFC. And you could make an
Right.
argument that the Invicta Atomweight champion is the best 105-pound fighter in the world. As an atomweight yourself, does that play on yourself and other atomweights in a way that it might not do for the other weight classes?
I mean, I know, like right now, like when people ask me, because when you're a fighter, you get the question all the time. Oh, hey, do you want to be in the UFC? And my answer is, simply usually like, well, yeah, but the UFC doesn't have my weight class right now, so it's not an option for me. And right now, as far as at least within the states, if you're an atom weight and you want to be, top contender, it's Invicta.
If the offer ever came to fight in the UFC at 115 pounds, would you take it?
I mean, I don't think you really have a choice at that point. Like, you got to do what you got to do, right? You get an offer like that, and you see all the atom weights now, doing that, right? You see a lot of atom weights that have made that jump to 115 just to be able to fight in the UFC.
Jin Yu Fry being one of the higher profile
Yep.
examples recently. Speculation's always going to mount that the UFC are going to introduce atomweight at some point. Do you see it happening?
I do see it happening at some point. It's just, I think it's more of a question of when will that point be, because this speculation has been going on, for the last couple of years. It's definitely gaining momentum now. But it's just really if it's, going to make sense for them monetarily to do that.
Invicta's also been in the news recently. Of course, you have good links with Invicta, competing there a couple of times. They've struck the deal in the
Yep,
past couple of months with Access. They're leaving the Fight Pass bubble. It's very exciting times for the promotion.
absolutely. I'm really excited for it.
And a great main event as well coming up with Alicia Zapatella and Jessica Del Boni. They're going to be fighting for the Atomweight belt. Any predictions for this one?
Yes. I mean, I haven't fought Jessica. I fought Alicia. I think Alicia definitely has, her wrestling game is really strong, and she's shown it in pretty much all of her fights. But Jessica's definitely tricky, and she has I think her ground game is slicker than people give her credit for sometimes. So I think it's definitely going to be, a tough matchup. I think Alicia might pull out the win, but I'm going to be rooting for Jessica on this one.
Maybe in the future you could be one of Jessica or Alicia's next opponents, depending on which way things
Yep,
go.
100%.
Of course, the
We're
last
right
time
there.
Of course, the last time you competed was in December. I think it was the 18th of December for Cage Fury.
Yes.
A lot of people are going to be wondering when's the next time we're going to be seeing you back in the cage.
Yeah, I mean, we're looking to make it soon. So, fingers crossed. It's that announcement comes very soon.
And last, of course, you do a lot of predictions for an MMA website. You mainly focus on the women's events, but we also have a big
Yep.
UFC title match coming up in the next couple of days. Charles Oliveira and Michael Chandler, light heavyweight title is on the line. Lightweight title on the line, I should say. Lightweight title on the line, Oliveira versus Chandler. Which way are you leaning towards that one?
I don't know. I've been focusing so much on the females. I don't put so much time into the guys, but I think I'm gonna have to go with Chandler on that one.
If there's anyone out there who likes what they've heard from this interview, wants to follow your career in more detail, where are the best places that they can go to?
Yep, you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Lionheart Jill. I do a lot of pre-fight stuff. I do a lot of fight night stuff on Twitter, so it's definitely a really good place to interact with me. And Instagram is more of like my goofy, silly side. So you can get a little bit of both sides there.
And on that cheery note, that's a good place for us to end. Jillian, thank you very much for joining me, being sort of the guinea pig for this first interview. I want to thank you as well, the audience, for tuning in. Please like, share, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell to stay informed. Jillian, once again, thank you very much for joining us. Any final words?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm glad I could be a guinea pig, and I think you did a great job. So you're off to a good start.
Thank you very much. This is the INC.
No
Thank you very
problem.
much for watching.